I forgot. I took the record sign down when I was using it as an example before, and it wasn't up there.
So let's see. Like we go back to Calvin.
See, you can only be guaranteed to have the right conversation when you participate. Every once in a while, we mess this up. I mess this up. Brian's coming for my job.
All right. Well, why don't you catch up everybody on the podcast of what's just happened, and then we can start over with get May to continue her.
Hello, everybody. Grant Hunter here. Yes, I forgot to record, even though that was a pitch I had before we even started. So we've talked through the question. Here, I'll put it up here. What is the best product you are or were a customer of, and what impact can you see from good product management? Calvin, hold it up, Calvin. Help lead us on a great conversation on the importance of Apple products and what they've done, changing categories. We talked about the Apple iPad and Apple in general, and we talked about lowercase product management versus uppercase product management, where Steve talked about, they may not have a formal department of product management, but they have somebody like Steve Jobs at Apple. We then pivoted into Jason and his Leatherman, which somebody stole from his pickup truck, but the Leatherman was this all tool that helped him do stuff. And we're pivoting back to our technical answer. Actually, Kelly Walton then talked about Produce Box. See, you really have to be on the call to get it, because sometimes I forget to hit the record button. Kelly Walton talked about the Produce Box and how the Produce Box really solved the problem. She didn't want to go to the farmer's market, but she wanted to support local produce. And then, hey, May, you talked about Discord.
I did. I don't remember where it was. So I'll start over. So Discord basically unified gaming overnight. Right. So before Discord came along, in order to have voice chats, you would either be on a Skype call, which is kind of sketchy because these are people from the internet. And usually your Skype is also how you talk to, your family. So it's your real name. And also there are other team chats, but they're all paid. So there were things like Ventrilo and TeamSpeak. And then also, if you're a bit, I guess, older or more technical, there's also IRC. Internet Relay Chat for those.
I remember that.
Yes. So basically overnight, all of these other competitors vanished. Everyone went to Discord. All of these communities moved to Discord. Steam Chat tried to compete a bit, but the only time you ever use Steam Chat is to ping someone and say, hey, we're gaming, let's go. You never have a conversation on Steam Chat. It doesn't exist.
And so I'd ask the question, was it proactive product management or just reactive?
So the way I like to think about whether or not it's proactive product management is how the product has evolved and not really how it started or its current foothold. And I think they've done a really good job, because a lot of the things they've introduced are a little complicated. So they've recently introduced the idea of threads. So instead of threading like it does, like you see it in Slack where it's kind of off to the side, they've actually allowed you to create a thread that's basically a sub channel of the current channel. And if no one talks in it for 24 hours, it gets automatically archived. And you can set that time frame for longer. So I thought that was a very interesting idea. At first, there was a lot of opposition, but it really made sense in the context of, if you had 100 people on the server always talking, then you really want to split out those conversations into specific subcategories, but you might not want a permanent channel for it.
What that really does is go to, in each case, we're talking about Calvin with his iPod, Jason with his Leatherman. We also talked about the Apple Watch in the specific use cases, whether it's Steve standing up for an hour while he watches TV at 10 o'clock at night to close his rings, my wife using Apple Pay on the watch, or Brian forgetting his phone in the car and the Apple Watch letting him know he forgot it and he can go get it, right? A lot of these is, for me, it all comes down to these products understand the use case and help do it. And I think those sub threads really is about an understanding of these use cases and how do you translate that into solution and design, right?
Exactly.
Awesome. And Jason just said, Discord is how Meta is going to affect the space with their ambition. Product management is like going crazy here. Do you think that Meta is trying to, is Discord the competition for Meta?
I think that, I mean, Meta's ambition will eventually be to absorb anything that Discord's doing. I mean, I just think Meta's, I was just thinking about the product management for Meta right now with the ambition from Zuckerberg, what he's trying to accomplish there, as being the place for hanging out virtually and augmented reality and everything else.
It'll be interesting to see where that goes. I think Discord has really created an interesting platform as a disruptor potentially for that, whereas people are having those things happen, and as more than the gamer communities start using that, as more things go in there, it really could be a game changer for that. I never hadn't thought about that, but it'll be interesting to watch where that goes and see where the product management goes with that, especially, with the whole ethics stuff that's been around as well with Facebook and Meta.
I would like to make a comment on Facebook. So a lot of people are talking about Meta, but when I was teaching back, I'd say 6-7 years ago, I was teaching a bunch of grade 7s, so about 13 years old. And when I mentioned Facebook, they stopped and they said, "Oh, that thing my parents use."
Yeah. My son, the only reason he's on Facebook is to watch the Pensbury uncensored parents stream and see all the parents complaining about different things and all the, gossip and stuff like that. They do not, at least neither of my kids are active on Facebook. And I think there's going to be an interesting change in this demographic and dynamic and what that means to it. So we're going to use that to pivot into our app specific technology. Joy McCaffrey, reading your answer, it really, really resonated with me as somebody who used to commute into New York City. Talk to me about what changed your life in Chicago.
It did change my life. I mean,
that's what I said. Talk to me about what changed your life.
From before and after, I was thinking people who didn't live in the city, when they saw people standing in the middle of the street facing traffic, did they think, is this person trying to get hit by a car? But really, it was so common to do that and search for the bus. How far away is the bus? When is the bus going to get here? It was just that not knowing that is just so frustrating. I mean, so they created this app that you could log into and you could identify where you're standing, and you could see the little bus icons and where they were in relation to you and the estimated time of arrival at your stop. And it was just a game changer. In the winter, I lived very close to a bus stop, so I wouldn't even open my front door to leave until the bus was 4 minutes away from my stop. So, I mean, in cold weather, it was just fantastic. If I did miss it, if I left 2 minutes before and the bus glided past me and the next one wasn't coming for 20 minutes, that's okay. I'll just go to Starbucks, Starbucks on the corner.
Was this a CTA app?
Yeah, Chicago Transit Authority. And I don't know when you think about CTA, they didn't have developers or product managers. So I don't know if they just got so many complaints or if they heard about, technology from New York or Boston or wherever, and they just copied, an app from somewhere else. But at some point, the decision was made, to help their consumers. I mean, it was a huge problem, and people were always angry and yelling and raising their fists at buses and L's. It just made a huge difference. And there had to have been a product manager involved at some point, if not in Chicago, then maybe another company, another city where they got the app from. And I say that there had to have been a product manager involved because it was quite useful.
So there in New York, there was this thing called Clever Commute, which was a totally, Paul, have you used Clever Commute? So Clever Commute started as a Twitter-based thing where people could tag, I'm on New Jersey Transit, this line, trains running behind. whatever it may be. And it was purely social,
That's like Waze for buses.
yeah, ways, but for transit where people could share that information. So when I was taking New Jersey Transit into New York, I would use the New Jersey Transit app, the Clever Commute. They had an app. Also follow both of them on Twitter, just for that same exact reason. Or actually, for me, it was more important coming back because seeing what's going on at Penn Station when you're taking a train out of Penn Station, if for some, going into New Jersey, if the Hudson tunnels are closed, something's going on, you go to take the bus. So much of our time is taken up there. I love that you put an app in there that was around your commute and around transit, because it's probably had so much value created for you, and they thought about the use cases.
To work and going home every single day, I would use it. And it's just giving you control that was completely out of your hands before. And being able to it was literally actionable intelligence. I know a lot of companies, that's a buzzword, but this was literally actionable intelligence that I could work on a daily basis. How far away is the bus? Should I take a different bus? Should I, it was amazing.
Awesome. I love it. Samantha.
How much do you think that came from observation? Was somebody at the bus listening to everybody going, where the hell's the damn bus? Enough times that they went, oh, here's something that is an urgent problem and is pervasive, in at least among these 17 people taking the bus. I mean, was somebody don't you figure it was an observation as opposed to
I often, when I'm using a
mandate?
product, I often think, let alone for, for this app, I think, do these people not use their own product? I think that all the time. So I don't know.
All the time.
I don't know.
I actually know the answer to this question.
I don't know if the CTA used public, people who worked at CTA used public transportation, and they thought, guys, we need to do something about this. The technology is available. I don't know the answer to that.
May, you said you do know the answer to that.
Yeah. So back, I guess, when back in the day, they would have, at least in Toronto, they would have people stand at certain very busy intersections and note down the times, and also and then I think they started putting trackers on the buses to build an internal system to see where things are. But then they also decided, I think most transit agencies do this now, they actually make all of this information public. So you can access it through a public API. So
yeah, and actually WeWork, you would have the ones like for the subway station right close to you in New York.
Yeah, exactly. So you can actually, a lot of these apps are actually homegrown apps, or like maybe some of them are a little bigger, but I know my favorite app's built by like this one guy in Toronto who just really loves transit. And then there's a few sites that are that go really deep into the detail. They'll cross-reference the bus schedule, that what it's supposed to be, and it'll tell you how far it's ahead, how far it's behind. Take like previous historical analysis and say like your bus will probably be at this station at this time. So it's really cool what some people have done with it, and most of these are passion projects by people who really love transit.
Clever Commute was one of those as well.
Yeah.
Paul, I wasted a ton of time with my whole recording fiasco. What's yours? What would be your product that you were a customer of and that you could see an impact from product management?
It's interesting, Joy, you mentioned that it was a common interview question, and I agree with you 100%. I got it all the time. And the product that I always said was Dropbox. Okay. Dropbox is a fantastic product. And I think that the impact that product management has had at Dropbox is that it is just so simple to use. You don't even think about using it. It just works on your computer. Everything that I store in that folder, I can access on my other computer, on my phone, on my wife's phone. I can have my daughter's pictures upload to Dropbox because I install it on her phone. It just simply works. Now listening to everybody talk about transit, I was actually thinking about another answer, which is City Bike.
Okay.
City Bike is a fantastic product. And as everybody here probably has heard me talk about before, I'm a huge cyclist. I love it. And to me, the worst part when I moved from Boston to New York was I had to give up commuting by bike. And I was now taking the Long Island Sail Road into Penn Station and then I would go on the subway or whatever. And then all of a sudden the City Bike thing appeared in New York City. And I'm like, perfect. I can come out of the train station, pick up a bike, and get to the office and get in a bike ride while I'm at it.
I love it.
And not have to pay additional money for the subway in the city.
I like that. Steve, is there anyone you'd want to throw out here? You and I didn't answer.
Gosh, as we've been going through this, I've thought of, half a dozen products. One that I mentioned in our course, in our fundamentals course, I keep coming back to, and that's the Nest thermostat.
Yeah.
The guy comes to my house, he fixes the air conditioner, he replaces it with this horrid smart thermostat that no one can use. And so for Father's Day that year, my wife gave me, quote unquote, a gift of the Nest thermostat as a nice project for me to work on Father's Day because she couldn't use the thermostat. And she said it's just brilliant. I mean, you turn the dial when you're cold, you turn it the other way when you're hot, and if you do it consistently enough, it'll just start programming to do it that way every day. And that was a real game changer for us. And it was certainly an element of design. It was like, hey, let's take an iPod and stick it on the wall. But it was also an element of really understanding the whole product, understanding the overall customer experience, starting with step one of the instructions are take a picture of the wires of the old thermostat before you disconnect anything. Which, of course, everyone should know that, and almost nobody does it, I suppose. But anyway, I've been doing it ever since.
Awesome. Well, that's actually a great pivot. We talked about, you talked about the whole product understanding job we've done. We did a poll. Here, I'll put it for the full screen. What is the most common area that product management impacts a product you love? They understand your problem, job to be done. They understood the whole product. They did a great job with segmentation and personas. They created a unique and innovative solution to your problem, or other, it depends. Share in the comments. I'm going to admit, I voted this morning, so I already knew, and I chose to not win. I voted for they understood the whole product at 20, which was 22%. They understand your problem, job to be done was 44%, clear winner. They create a unique, innovative solution for your problem, 22%, and other, it depends, 11%. Let's start there, May. You were the other, I'm assuming, because you're the only person who commented in. You said
I am the other, and I would like to change my response, but it's still other. So I actually had a conversation this morning with one of our design leads, and we were talking about the concept of what is discovery, and he brought up that there were really three factors of discovery when it comes to a fairly nebulous problem, but slightly defined, which is the feasibility of it, the usability of it, and the viability of it. So I think I covered viability and usability, but I think I missed feasibility. So okay, like feasibility is like, can it exist, right? So yeah, in a way it gets covered, but I think I want to really add that in.
I appreciate that clarification and context. I had voted for I understand the whole product. Steve, I think your example with the Nest really, that's the whole product has really been a thing I've been, fixated on recently about how important it is. Jason, how'd you vote?
The first one with the jobs to be done.
I think you win every week.
With my most popular vote?
Your votes are like almost always like,
I think everybody waits for Jason to vote so that they know how to vote.
I'm just, I guess I'm not a unique thinker is what it is. Looking at things from outside the box, I was looking, I thought about the whole product, and I look at the whole product as being beneficial, more internal to the company, possibly than external to the users, because of how you manage all the stakeholders. And we discussed that previously. But to the end user themselves, it's really understanding what needs to be done. Side story, I had a car, I won't say the make and model, but I had a car that had of course, had a glove box. On top of the glove box was another glove box, sort of, but it was used to hold soda cans, not beer, but soda cans, in case and it had a vent coming from the AC. So when you wanted to cool your sodas, you can cool it from the AC. Now, I never cooled it significantly. You'd have to have the AC turned really low. But what ends up happening is if you're using the AC in the summer, you get out of your car, you leave the cans in there for several hours. What happens to soda cans when they're hot in the hot dashboard for several hours? They explode. So when I already think of like horrible product management, I always think about that place in my car in the dashboard that held soda cans. Perfect. And by the way, one did explode on me because it was left in there. And so I was just like, so that's not a job to be done, where they looked at the entire kind of process in the environment. And there's also no need for it. So it was taking up space. And I think a lot of products that we encounter, like Steve was saying, is like, what is this for? What job was to be done here? Or was it just a product manager or somebody within the organization that said, you know, I think that this would be cool, you know?
So I don't want to go down this path, but I'll go a little bit down it. In 1990 something, the Dodge Ram first came out with their beveled front end, and it won Truck of the Year. And there was an article about it, and Robert Lutz, who had been the COO at Chrysler at the time, they were building the new headquarters for Chrysler. And what he did was he sent his product managers, or whatever they're called in the auto industry, out to the site. There's a ton of pickup trucks for construction people, their ideal persona. Take pictures inside the cab and see how they are doing stuff. Where are they using it as a desk? Where are they putting this? Where are they putting that? They actually designed the cab based on how everybody had been using it. So I thought it was a pretty good, interesting way of doing it. I don't think they had a can holder in the dashboard to explode. They did have cup holders up here because people put their coffee cup up on the dashboard. They actually put a cup holder up there. Joy, I'm assuming you
find it funny that they still don't have a place for me to put my phone. I mean, you know, I haven't used the GPS in my car since I bought it, but the window of the GPS isn't the right size to put my phone on. So I've got this convoluted CD thing, because I haven't used the CD player either. So I've got this thing that plugs into the CD drive to hold my phone, and it's just enough in the way that I can't see my backup mirror when I'm backing up. But other than that, it's the perfect location. And it's particularly irritating to me when I rent a car, because I don't know the town, right? And there's no place to put my phone. So one of those great inventions is I have a little magnetic thing that shoves into an air conditioning vent to serve as a temporary mount for my iPhone. And it's like, why have car dealers not figured this out? And I think the answer really is because they don't want you to use your good phone. They want you to use their shitty GPS software.
Actually, they have figured it out, and Apple Play is CarPlay is the answer. So if you,
I agree that it is, but I'm not yet willing to buy a whole new car to get Apple.
Well, I get that, and so it's a segmentation thing. It would be
a very small delta, though. I mean,
we put CarPlay into
car for that purpose.
We put CarPlay into the kid's car, and Katner, my son, won't. You know, it's like couldn't live without it. He loves it. It's amazing.
That still doesn't solve my rent-a-car problem.
It does. Many of them have it now, which does. Joy, did you vote?
Yeah, I did. The first answer. What is that? Know your problem?
Jobs to be done problem. How about you, Kelly?
Yeah, same. The first one as well too. There's just so much folklore of, you know, teams building products only to find, oh, it didn't really help solve the problem that we were looking for.
Brian, did you?
The solution.
Oh, okay.
Yep, I was going back and forth between the problem, whole product, and the solution, and then I thought, who cares if you understand the problem if you don't deliver a solution?
Well, and I think it ties to some of the stuff we talked about earlier that is not on this recording about, the iPod is a really innovative way to disrupt and solve a different solution. Paul Hurwitz, did you vote?
I didn't get a chance to, but I totally 100% agree with Brian.
The unique solution.
Yeah, unique solution. Who cares if you understand the problem? If you don't give me a way to solve it, I don't really care.
All right, Steve, what would you vote for? Or did you tell me that? You're on mute.
I was all convinced to stick with whole product. Yeah, I'm going to stick with the whole product. But the last 2 points about it doesn't matter if you understand the problem if you don't solve the problem. I certainly agree with that as well. I'm fascinated that no one chose segmentation and personas.
That fascinated me too. I really thought that would be would really be the place that we would, because personas and understanding them is key to understanding the jobs to be done.
Yeah, but I think a lot of organizations, they go to the trouble. They either do superficial personas or they overdo the market segmentation, and it's almost like an exercise in theory. But if it doesn't end up resulting in changes in product, then it's just a marketing exercise. It's not a whole product exercise.
No, I can agree with that.
Yeah,
Can I
and I would.
chime
I'm sorry. Please, man. No, absolutely.
I think that like by the time you get to market segmentation and personas and you're digging deeper into it, like you already have probably a pretty robust product. So I feel like that's kind of the next step to getting to a really good product.
Well, I would
initial.
argue that you could it's hard to separate really understanding the job to be on the market problem without knowing the persona and segment. I think they're almost intertwined. So, Jason, you were going to say?
Yeah, I was going to say, basically that, and then I'm thinking from the recipient, we're looking at this from a different perspective, not inside the organization, from outside, and the byproduct of some of that pre-work. And so, yeah, you're looking at it at maybe the last point or something. But yeah, how do you do the jobs to be done without personas? Perhaps they were linked, those kind of things. But it's just from
I love it. You know what? Partly due to my epic fail and forgetting to hit record at the beginning and having to spend a little time recapping. Partly the fact that we have a large panel with a lot of really good insights and a great conversation on the first question now on the poll. We're going to jump right into the lightning, or in this case, thunder round. I already planned on it being a little long because it's hard to answer. And for the first time ever, I've prepped people with it because I think it could be a tough one. I do know my answer, but I'm expecting somebody will take it by the time before we get to me. So I'm still thinking of what my second choice would be. If you could take over product management for a product you use, what would the product be and what would you do first? And I'm going to start with Calvin.
Good call.
Because he said he already had the answer, didn't he?
I did. So we've mentioned the iPad numerous times. And my challenge is I'm an Android household. I'm a Google household. So I've got, more product here, my Google Assistant, and all that. And my iTunes doesn't work with any of that. So the challenge would be opening up the interoperability so that my this one Apple product that I have that I love, the iTunes would work with my Android devices and my Google Home.
So you're going to go to Apple as a product manager and get rid of the closed ecosystem that has made them what they are.
In one sentence, yes.
Okay, that's very self-serving, isn't it?
Pretty much.
Okay, I got it.
But it solves my problem, and probably the problem of others as well.
In support of Calvin, however, iTunes didn't really take off. The iPod didn't really take off until Apple finally did an iTunes for Windows, and that's when it blew up.
Yeah.
And I think they had an inadvertent second part of that, and they went, all the buyers went, oh, this is what software's like when it doesn't suck. And so a lot of people went, I wonder if other Macintosh programs don't suck, and found out that, a lot of Apple products are vastly better than their Windows equivalent.
Good answer, Steve. Kelly Walton.
Yeah, so I will, my answer is pharmacy refills and scheduling vaccines and that sort of thing. So it's vastly greater than the days back when you'd have to show up with a piece of paper and take the bottle back to get your refills. But there's still lots of room to reduce friction in that space. I know trying to schedule things, I may have to answer the same thing multiple times. I had notifications on 3 different channels that my prescription was ready, but when I arrived, it was not actually ready. So vast improvements, but still lots of room to reduce friction.
Well, talking about refilling prescriptions means we got to go to Paul Hurwitz.
There's so many things that I could say about prescriptions, but my answer to this question is actually the same answer I gave before, is Dropbox. It's actually as simple as it is and as good of a product as it is, it's getting a little, they're moving away from that simplicity a little bit. And I would want to get back to that simplicity. They're adding in too many features.
Okay, we got that. Brian Weber.
It would be Evernote, and it'd be creating a partnership with a software product called The Brain, which is like mind mapping on steroids.
Boy, he's like real specific on this one. It's like,
and it is like Kelvin, completely self-serving. I use Evernote, all my information is in there, but I love the way you can search and create relationships in The Brain.
Okay, I like it, Brian. Joy McCaffrey.
Hey, I take Zoom, or should I take something else? Is that what you're?
Well, it depends on what you're going to fix.
For Zoom, I would fix the record. So either in your settings, indicate always record my meeting at noon on Fridays, so that you can set that in advance.
Well, it does record it, but then I pause it when we're doing the green room stuff.
Okay, so then I would have something like a notice that says, do you want to record this meeting? Yes, no, or snooze for 5 minutes.
Okay.
The reminder to join.
I like snooze. But I'm now, with a few people left, I am like left without a, God. Thanks a lot, Joy.
To jump on Joy's point, to add on to Joy's point, I think there's 2 things that Zoom could do that would be valuable. One is when you're paused on recording, to put a red bar around the entire screen instead of sticking a Post-it note up on it. And the second one is, as an option, putting a white bar around the entire screen, so I don't need a light on the front of my computer. Let the screen be the light.
And that you can choose if that's yours when I get to you, but we're still going to get to you. But Joy, I completely and totally agree. May Wong.
Does it have to be feasible? Because like I'd take over Facebook and I'd kill Facebook.
Well, actually, that's where I was going to go with Evernote. Is you're going to take over Evernote and kill it.
Yeah, but if it had to be feasible, I would say Windows and Bluetooth settings, because any other application on Windows that uses Bluetooth, every time you switch Bluetooth, it either crashes the application, or the application can't find the right audio connection, or it just doesn't work. So that is the thing that I dislike the most.
You actually have given me an answer. Jason Vincelette.
The navigation on some of the streaming services.
Ooh, which one specifically?
We'll start with, that's a good one. We'll start with Prime.
Okay. That could definitely use it. So you'll go to Amazon Prime and fix their navigation.
Fix their navigation issues.
Steve Johnson.
I'm going to go there a different way. I think it's really interesting to see in this meeting, and maybe I'm the only one who did it, but how one person's idea, you go, oh yeah, and we could also. And I think a lot of product managers work alone too much.
Yeah.
And I'm delighted when I hear of teams where there's a dev lead and a UX person and a product manager or product owner working as a team. Because as we teach in our courses, writing stories is a group exercise. And yet I so often encounter product managers who are sitting at their desk just logging in tickets one after another. And so the collaborative nature of this has caused me to go, oh, that's a great idea. Yes, and to like everything that has been said. I think I would enjoy doing product management for Zoom. I would particularly enjoy working with the Zoom team on how do we make hybrid work. This is my latest rant. How do we make hybrid work in a way that somebody isn't a second-class citizen? I mean, either it's best for the people online and it's terrible for people on site, or vice versa. And there's any number of Zoom utilities that could be built for like, who has been least involved in this hour-long meeting we've just had, so I can be sure to reach out to that person and involve them. There are all sorts of like teacher aids that I could envision for Zoom. But in the end, I'd be delighted to do product management for literally any product that I have that I use, because there are so many opportunities to make them better.
Yeah, and obviously my original answer was going to be Zoom and record, but Joy decided to go there
and ruin your day. Yeah,
and ruin my day. But Steve, I was thinking the exact same thing. If I hit pause, it means I do plan on recording, whether it's the you're on mute type prompt they give you, a snooze, the red, whatever, do it like that could have been one. But so I was forced to start thinking. I sort of went to iCloud, because iCloud is not as simple as Paul's Dropbox. And at one time I thought I had everything in iCloud, and I did a hard reset of my computer and I didn't have everything in iCloud, and I lost it. Right. But I decided to go, where do I complain the most, Steve, when we're having a call? My iPods, they're connected to the computer, not my phone. And I would go to Apple. And interestingly, we talked up Apple, how well they do with use cases, but there are some use cases that are tough. I'm on a Mac, I've got a laptop, I've got a Mac, I've got an iPad, I've got a Mac laptop, Mac desktop, and an iPhone. And Steve calls me on my phone. It says that my AirPods are connected. I click on the things and it doesn't work. He doesn't hear me. And I have to like go through mechanisms to connect to do it. I mean, it happens a lot. Actually, I've started only answering the phone on the Mac. I do like that part of it. But AirPods, and how do they make sure you're on the right device when things are happening? Have like a pecking order, a hierarchy of, we do these things. But boy, I feel like we could have split this one up into multiple weeks, just because we never even got to the questions. And that's partly my fault, because Joy did not become the product manager for Zoom yet and fix the record problem. But I appreciate everybody's input and thoughts. What a great conversation, as always, every week. Made me learn, made me think. And we do this every week. On Mondays, the question goes in the community. On Wednesdays, we do the poll. And on Fridays, we have these wonderful conversations. Calvin, Jason, May, Joy, Kelly, Paul, and Brian, who both had to leave. And of course, my friend and partner, Steve Johnson. Thank you guys so much for a wonderful conversation. And we'll see you next week in the community.